Hi, I'm Allison Guido from Almar Building and Remodeling Company, and I'm the 2019-2020 President of the South Shore Women's Business Network. We had been looking forward to this month's After Hours hosted by Cape Cod Lumber at their Homescape showroom. Since we cannot connect in person to talk about building a better business, I thought this would be a great time to share my recent presentation from the Boston Glow Empowerment Conference. The Glow Conference aims to provide guidance and build community among women professionals and their allies. They seek to uplift and validate the characteristics that make women great employees, entrepreneurs, and leaders. We are so appreciative of our great partners like Cape Cod Lumber and Boston Glow, who allow us to fulfill our mission of contacts, coaching, collaboration, and community. So please enjoy, and I hope you can take away one or two things to help you through this interesting time. And we hope to see you at an event soon.
I wanted to start by talking about the key to victory is creating the right routines. Charles Duguid said that, and I am a huge believer in the fact that, for me at least, I get things done when I know what the pattern is going to be. This week has been horrific for that. So the first few days were super bumpy, but towards the end of the week, when we got into a pattern, we got into a rhythm, it got a lot better. So these are the things I thought we could talk about today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am, about getting started on getting things done, learning and improving, evaluating yourself and building a support system, finding a mentor. Amma talked about that earlier, about allies, advisors, and advocates. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, about nurturing the relationships you've built. And then we've got some resources. And at the end, I wanted to talk about takeaways and next steps. So who am I and why am I here? I met Leah a couple of years ago. She and I went to the same high school, and I had her come last year to speak to one of my organizations, the South Shore Women's Business Network. We try to support a local charity every quarter, and so I knew Leah through high school, and we had her come, and it was a great opportunity to try and collaborate together. So that's how I got to be here at Boston Glow today. I own a construction company. We do residential remodeling, and I came to that because it's my family's business. My grandfather started it in the 50s, and then my dad ran it after him. And when I was graduating from college, I was in West Virginia trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I had worked for the business on breaks and during the summer and stuff. And my dad said, why don't you come home, work for me for a year, get settled, and then, you can find a job, what you want to do next. I have an arts management degree. So I was a double major in technical theater and business, which really is good for remodeling because it's business and building stuff. So that's kind of how I came to be doing what I'm doing now. I really loved it. I loved being able to build something. We were a much different company 20 years ago than we are now. And I knew that I would never be able to be the person long-term out there building stuff. I did vinyl siding in college on my breaks, but if I wanted to succeed, I had to build a business around me. I'm not going to be the tradesperson. So the business was started in the 50s, and when I came home from school, that's when I came in full time. And failure wasn't really an option for me. My parents didn't really have a retirement plan at the time, and so there was a lot of pressure to succeed at all costs. And I was kind of already that perfectionist type of person, so there were some bumpy moments. And as I said earlier, I have two little boys here at home. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and my husband now works in the business with us, but originally he was in theatrical lighting, and he's been my IT person today, so thanks. Oops. So getting started. Michael Jordan says that sometimes people want it to happen, some people wish it would happen, and other people make it happen. And I'm a firm believer of don't just talk about it, you gotta do something. So I've taken the thought process of If you do one thing every day to move yourself forward, you're getting closer to your goal. You know, sometimes you've got to force yourself out of your comfort zone. I would much rather stay home and read a book than to get myself out of your circle. I'm sure there were quite a few people today who were relieved that this became an online conference, because that meant you didn't have to travel into the city. You didn't have to, you know, be by yourself and go into the unknown. I'm one of those people. I was anxious not just to be the one speaking, but to have to think of all those other things. I live on the South Shore, so traveling into the city isn't in my comfort zone or my wheelhouse. Eleanor Roosevelt said, do one thing every day that scares you. I have a magnetic quote on my fridge, and every morning when I'm opening the fridge, I read that and remind myself that I've got to push myself a little bit more today. And then I find that often if I do the hard stuff first and then I can get to the easier stuff afterwards, it's a good motivator for trying to just get through those things that I don't really want to tackle. Michael Hyatt says, what gets scheduled gets done. If you put it on your calendar, if you put it in your to-do list, even if you have to move it, you're more likely to get something done. So if you've got a big task, or have figured out those little tasks, if you put them in paper on purpose, you'll get it done. Or, you know, they talk a lot about if you're doing if you're trying to do a weight loss plan, start to share your journey on Facebook or with other people, because it will get done, because you know you're accountable to other people. Even if you're not really, you feel accountable. So write it down, put it on your list, put it on your calendar. Even if you've got to move it or reschedule it, you'll get there. So one of the things you've got to do to manage your list is you've got to do a brain dump. You've got to write it all down. It may look overwhelming to have this huge list of things to do, but first thing you want to do is you want to write it all down. Then you rank it by importance. So I use the ABC method. I take everything on my list, I write it all down, and then I rank it. What's A? What's the most important thing I've got to get done? Then B, what's the next most important one or two things I've got to get done? Then C, what are the next couple of more important things I've got to get done? And then once you've got those kind of group things, you can go ahead and do it again. So then you take all of the A's, you're going to itemize them. You're going to take all the A's and you're going to go 1, 2, 3. I got to get this done first, this done second, this done third. Then you're going to take the B's and do this done first, this done second, this done third, and then the C's, and so on. I'm looking at my planner from a couple of weeks ago, and I literally have A1, A2, A3, A4, and then B1, B2, B3. So it's a good way to take that list that may be overwhelming and kind of break it down into small chunks. Ooh, there we go. Walt Disney says, the way to get started is to quit talking about it and do it. So how are we going to get ourselves to doing it sometimes? We've got to beat the imprisoning talk. So sometimes we're our own worst enemy. Sometimes the voices in our head can be more negative than anybody who's around us. And it's hard sometimes, especially when we're in an environment like this right now, where there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of things happening, to remember that very few people are ever going to talk to us or even think about us the way we think about ourselves. We have to remember that we sometimes are our own worst enemies. We are so hard on ourselves, and nobody would ever be as judgmental or as angry towards us as we can be toward ourselves. There are more people cheering for us and rooting for you than ever are hoping that you'll fail. So just remember, you've got this. No matter what is on your to-do list today, whether it's to get up and go for a walk, or it's to work on the next big assignment, or it's to make a list of how you're going to build your business and recover when we all get back to work, you've got cheerleaders all around you. And if you don't, I'm your cheerleader. You can reach out to me and I will tell you how great you're doing and walk you through it. So it's easier said than done to say to yourself, don't have negative thoughts. Don't be in your own head. You know, I totally understand that. So how are you going to do that? So think about when you think about and when you recognize that you're saying things that are self-sabotaging or, you know, breaking yourself down. What is something you can do or say to combat that? So if you're saying, I can't, you've got to change the narrative and say, no, it's not that I can't. I will do something. If you're feeling real resentful, you're feeling angry, you've got try and switch it and say, okay, I recognize that I'm angry, I'm depressed. What is happening today that I'm grateful for? You know, as I was sitting here in my office with Miles on one side and Gio on the other this week, trying to teach first and second grade and figure out how I'm going to communicate to my staff what's happening, I had to remember that we have a safe place to be today. Everyone is in the same boat and we'll figure this out. And that I haven't run into anybody who is angry and nasty and, you know, not understanding. So I was grateful for being able to take a few minutes and, you know, and just stop and think about, okay, I can't be upset. I can't be, you know, we're all doing this together. So as we're talking about, it's not fair. Okay, it's not fair. What can I do about it? You know, so as we walk through this list, you know, instead of saying, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, what's one thing you can do today? One thing every day that moves yourself forward. Participate instead of withdraw. You know, the most important time sometimes to do something and to go and participate in a conference like this is when you really don't want to, because sometimes that's when you need the reassurance the most. And celebrate even the small victories. We totally made it through this week. We survived, and I had a glass of wine last night, and I felt so much better. We didn't get everything done. We didn't get all the assignments done, but we didn't cry the last 2 days, and that was really big win for the three of us. So I feel like, for me at least, when I get upset and I get worried, that I have to do something, because when I do something and I take action to solve a problem, I take the power away from the fear. And maybe I have to do it again or change it or do something different. Even if we're making a new course correction and information's coming in, we're doing something, and it makes you feel like you're not powerless. I said to my guys yesterday, I'm making the best decisions I can with the information I have. Tomorrow, it might be different. Tomorrow, we might not be able to work. We might not be able to, you know, go to your house and keep working on your bathroom. I don't know. Today, this is what our plan is, and we're going to move forward with our plan. I'm just going to keep making things better, making little progress as we go along. So when you take action, you solve a problem. You take the power away from the problem. Oh, I don't know why it popped up twice. So do something, do anything. A body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest. So learning and improving. Ashton Kutcher says opportunity looks a lot like hard work. Shortly, not long after I took over the running of our business full time, I had a friend say to my sister, well, she was just given a business. She doesn't have to work hard. And my sister was so awesome. She was like, she wasn't given anything. She was given the chance to have a job, but she took that and she made it her own. And she took all of the challenges that were coming at her and she found solutions to it. So it's kind of like that 30-year overnight success. The harder you work, the more opportunities you have. So how can you make opportunities for yourself? You've got to be proactive. Growth just doesn't happen to someone. You're all here today because you're trying to learn something new. You're trying to come out of it with a new idea, a new tip, a new resource. I've always gone into the conferences and the books and the podcasts that I've done with the thought of, if I get one good thing out of it, it was worth my time. So hopefully you get one good thing out of today. You've been to 1 or 2 sessions already today. You're going to come out with a whole list of things. If you can take one of those and make action on it, it was worth your time. And growth doesn't happen between 8 and 4. You all know that. It's Saturday and you're spending your time at a conference. So try and learn something new every day. You'll learn something new every day if you pay attention. And at the end of the time, we're going to have you put in your chat box what one thing you're going to do. So be thinking about it. Okay, so what can you do? There's lots of ways to learn now. There's lots of ways to get information now. We're lucky in the fact that we have so much technology. Podcasts, there are some great podcasts out there. And I have a feeling that at the end of this shut-in, there'll be a lot more great podcasts out there. We're going to share a few resources for a couple of podcasts that I really enjoy. One is the Entree Leadership Podcast, the Ken Coleman Show, and then the Christy Wright Business Boutique. She's got a great podcast there that's geared for women who are building their business. Books and learning, reading. Amma talked about the library. You don't even have to pay for a lot of these resources. Some books that I've really enjoyed are the Entree Leadership book. I've got a whole list at the end that we'll share too. Christy Wright's book, Business Boutique, again, is great. Having 2 little kids, found that I didn't have the time to read that I wanted to have. So I downloaded the Audible app and I listen to the books in the car to and from school drop off and pick up. Classes and webinars like today, networking events, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, and just pick something and start chipping away at it. I made this little chart for myself a couple of years ago when we were going through the recession, and I was depressed and the phone wasn't ringing and I wasn't making connections with people, and there was just no way I could get somebody to call us. And I said to myself, I've got to do something every day. So I made this little chart and I have it above my desk still, and I look at it when I am looking for new direction. And I say, I will do my absolute best today. I will do it by making a phone call. I will send a handwritten note. I will attend or schedule a networking event or a one-on-one. I will reach out to somebody. I'm going to engage on social media or find a way to help somebody. Then I'm going to listen or read or go back to that list that we talked about a few minutes ago. And then I'm going to find something to be grateful for. I say to my kids every night, what's something that made you happy today? Because I feel like if we can start early, finding something every day to be grateful for, to be happy with, it will become ingrained in us. I do a production meeting with my office team every week. We talk about the jobs that are going on. I start that meeting by saying, tell me something good that happened this week. It can be work, it can be personal. After we've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, I still have people who every week come into that meeting and are like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, this is coming. You get a whole week to find one good thing. So start with finding one good thing a week. Then try and find one good thing a day. People can hear your smile. If you're grateful or you find something to be happy about, people will start to hear it. People will start to feel it. So you don't have to write it down. You can just think about it. If you write it down, all the better, because you can go back to it later in the day when you aren't feeling grateful and be like, forgot. Yeah, I'm really happy about that. So, self-evaluation. I am a huge fan of taking a look at where we are and where we're going. We do what is something called the SWOT analysis in my office. There we go. And SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so once a year, I sit down with my team and we individually write out, a couple of each. What are we good at? What are our talents? What's our personality like? What have we achieved? How can we help people as our for strengths? Then we write out some of our weaknesses. What aren't we so hot at? What are we missing? Where can we improve? What do we need to improve on? Opportunities. What are some things that we can have coming up that we can take advantage of? And then some threats. What are our obstacles? This is a great exercise to do personally if you're looking to get some, self-awareness. This is a great exercise to do with your company. This is a great exercise to do if you're working on a project and you need a place to go. So we make a list of all of those things. And then what we do is we make this chart. And so then we make this chart and you kind of ask yourself some questions. How do you leverage your strengths to benefit your opportunities? And you say, okay, we're really strong at this, and this is an opportunity. How do we use where we're strong for an opportunity? How do we use where we're strong to combat one of those threats? And then the same with your weaknesses. How do we use, okay, we're weak here, and this is an opportunity. What can we do to combine those things? So we've talked about in the past about, for example, in my office, we talked about, okay, we're really great at communication, and a threat and a threat is people don't know what we're doing. So how do we communicate better with our threats? I've got a link to some exercises that Kim will post in the chat box too. So that'll give you some more information about doing SWOT analysis. And I'm happy to talk you through it if you want to try and do one of those things. So once you, there we go. So once you kind of know what your strengths and weaknesses are, do you know what your personality type is? There are a whole bunch of different programs out there. We use the DISC in my office, which kind of talks about, it gives you a little bit about who you are and how you are. So if you look at the little chart we've got going now, it kind of says like a D person is fast-paced and outspoken. They can be skeptical. An S is cautious and reflective. I'm an S. I'm a bullet point person. It takes me forever to make a decision. Why should you know your DISC? It's going to help you increase your self-awareness. It's going to help you, how do you resolve conflict? How it's going to help you identify what motivates you and what motivates other people. It's going to help you figure out new creative ways to solve problems and help you communicate with other people. One of the things we do at my office is part of the interview process is people take a DISC profile test. And we talk a lot with our team about, I'm a C. Don't come to me with a half an idea. I'm going to need a lot of time to figure it out. My husband, Craig, is a high I. He's a people person. He's a chatter. So once you start to recognize those personality traits in other people, you can help communicate with them better. So a little bit about the different personality types, and I've got a link to the Tony Robbins has a free one that you can do online. So it's a fun little quiz, and we've got that link that we can share with you. So a D person tends to be in leadership positions. You see them a lot. They're a real big picture type people. They can be real confident, decisive, and organized, but they can also be argumentative. They can be controlling, and they can be that person that sometimes people have problems with trying to get them to understand you, or people that you don't really want to approach and have conversations with. They can be hard to interact with because they can be strong and focused, and the little head there gives some verbiage of what those type of people are like. And there's no right or wrong personality type. This is a generalization of how some of our personality types are. high eyes like my husband. They can tend to be people person. They're extroverts. They are the people who are hanging around the water cooler. They're the people who, and on the college campuses, they're the go-to fun people who always have the new idea and are planning the going out. They can be the heart of the office. They can have that devil may care attitude, but they can also be the people who are too chatty sometimes. They care about sometimes freedom and popularity, and at the expense of rules and organizations sometimes. When we're dealing with people in our office, Craig loves to be loved. He hates it when people aren't happy with him sometimes. The S's. If you're not sure, if you can't really tell what a person's personality type is, they're most likely an S. We tend to see that there are more S's than any other personality type. They can be the patient and reliable person. They do their best to keep harmony among the groups and to make sure that everybody's happy. They try to avoid conflict, but they can be really valuable people. They tend to be very loyal. They are often, though, and tend to be uncomfortable with change. They tend to be steady and peaceful, and they like harmony. My production manager, who's been with us over 30 years, he's an S. I know that Mark takes a long time to get on board with a new idea, and I have to approach him slightly slower than I do other people who are like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's get going. Mark, I've kind of ease him into a little bit. And then me, the C, they can be super analytical. They like statistics. They like numbers. They're the accountant. I would be so happy if I could sit at my desk all day with my QuickBooks and my spreadsheets and just hang out there. I love details. I want step-by-step, idiot-proof directions on how to do everything. Don't come to me with paragraphs of emails and instructions. They tend to get absorbed in their work, and sometimes to the point where people feel like they're not that interested in them. And it's not that I'm not interested, and it's not that I don't love you and want to hear what's going on. Sometimes I just get super focused. I can be the person who just doesn't seem super fun sometimes, and I'm okay with that. I feel like sometimes now that I know my disc and I own my disc, it's easier because I can say, I'm a C, this is what I need from you. It took me 2.5 years to buy a new bed. I looked at everything. I took a while, I thought about it, but when I made the decision and we got going. So it's really kind of fun. And if you don't know your personality type, I highly encourage you to take the little quiz, figure it out. So once you know who you are, the actions you need to do, how are you going to do it? We can't do this in a vacuum. We are all here because we're standing on the shoulders of the people who came before us. We are all here because someone supported us. The things I'm saying aren't new, and I don't have all the answers. I have great resources, and I have great people who came before me to show me the way. This is the picture of a foundation we started. We built our first new house in 20 years here on the South Shore not that long ago. And so I was trying to find a really interesting support structure picture, and I was like, oh, that's great. So that's what that picture is. That's a foundation we poured about this time last year. So support can come in many ways. You get support from your family and your friends and your colleagues and mentors and from networking groups. You get support from education and your online communities. There are a few different types of networking groups. So I just wanted to touch on those because networking comes in a lot of different ways. And some people, I think, automatically think we're going to go to a networking group and blah, blah, blah. We're going to share leads. But I want to talk about the different types so that, especially if you're younger and you're not into a career yet, you have a good idea of what might be the best fit for you, because they're not all a good fit for everybody. So the first one is industry and professional associations, community and service, strong contact networking, and then casual contact networking. So industry and professional associations, they are things that clearly have to do with our industry. So for me, the two biggest ones that we participate in are the National Association of the Remodeling Industry and the Builders and Remodelers Association. So what's great about joining industry-specific networking groups is you're getting like-minded people together. You know, you're getting the opportunity to focus on education that's industry related. You know, I get lots of emails, updates from these two organizations that are telling me about laws that are changing, educational opportunities that specifically relate to what we're doing, information from suppliers and collaborations that they've got with, you know, manufacturers that relate to building or remodeling. You know, if you're a nurse in the group, these wouldn't be a great fit for you, but the Nurses Association would be. You know, and groups like these two, for us, they do a lot of advocating for our industry. They do a lot of political action information. They do a lot of, you know, working with the state and federal government to make regulations and laws that make things easier. So it's great to be part of these organizations. You may not get work from them specifically, but you're going to build your own base. Community and service groups like Rotary, like the Lions Club. You know, these are groups that you can utilize to give back to the community. They hold fundraisers, they hold local events, they can connect you with people who want to do things that you want to do. They have the same value system as you, and you're building a network and you're making connections, but you're also giving back to your community. So for some people who that's a really big value point for them and what they're doing, those are great organizations to look into. Strong contact networking. So I only have one picture here because BNI is kind of the end all be all, you know, vision point for what this is. And these strong networking contract groups like BNI, you'll increase your exposure to like-minded professionals and sharpen your business skills. And they really focus on business to business, sharing referrals, sharing leads, making contacts. For me, those kind of groups didn't end up being a good fit, but they might be perfect for you. They're often one industry. So I was the only remodeler in the group, which was great. But I found that I needed a more person-to-person relationship building. And it didn't matter if I got the lead quite right away. For me, I found that these casual contact networking groups like GLOW, like the South Shore Women's Business Network, were a better fit for me. They gave me an opportunity to meet people, to build my brand, to build my education, and to build relationships while in an easy environment. They give me the opportunity to meet people and find ways to help and ways to engage without feeling the pressure of you've got to give a lead. So that's why I like these kind of groups, because they just fit my personality better. And the good thing is there's something for everybody's personality type. You can give referrals and make contacts and be friends. So one of the things I like about, the South Shore Women's Business Network is that they really focus on building contacts, coaching, collaborating, and community. So we do a little bit of everything. I'm lucky enough to be the president for 2019 and 2020 of the South Shore Women's Business Network. And we've really, since I came on the board, focused on these 4 C's. This was kind of our long-term goals they got away from. And so every event, every marketing, every educational thing we do, we kind of talk about how do you build these things? How do we help people build their contacts and coach each other and find ways to work together, whether it's to do business or just to collaborate and help each other. And then we support the community by picking a charity every quarter. And it's given us great opportunities. Because we worked with GLOW, I have the opportunity to be here with you guys today. So you never know when you're going to find a chance to just keep moving forward. Like Amma said, one step at a time. So what you got to do once you pick a group is you got to go to the event. You might be nervous. it's rational to be nervous. Some of us, depending on your personality types, getting out and forcing yourself to be that extrovert is not within your comfort zone. So I wanted to share a couple of the things that I've done that has made it easy for me. As a C, being the extrovert is not comfortable for me. If you can't you don't get anything out of the event if you don't put anything into it. You just have to remember, everyone's there for the same reason. Our time is valuable. It's limited. So if you're at an event, everyone came to that event because they want to meet new people and share in the experience. So don't be nervous, So don't be nervous. I'm a little nervous now talking about it. So here are some tips for getting started. Find someone on the edge of the room who's not talking to anybody. They are probably desperate to have someone to talk to, and they don't have the skills yet to just jump into that conversation. So if you're nervous or you don't know who to talk to, go and approach that person. They will be so grateful. And then just ask them a starter question. One of the things that I learned in college in one of my groups was a couple of starter questions to get people talking. So, what do you do? Oh, how did you come to do that? And how did you learn about today's event? You can ask anybody those questions and get them start talking. They will talk for 20 minutes and they will think that you were super interesting. People like to hear themselves talk and they don't even realize that they're doing it. Once you get them going, it's sometimes hard to get them to stop. And if you can't get them going, then it's okay to say, that's so great, thank you so much, and then move on. And another great way is if you're talking to somebody and it's a little uncomfortable and you see somebody else pull them in and say, hey, Kim, have you met Ann? And Ann is in XYZ. And then you can hand off that conversation. But just getting them started is the important thing, So here we go. We're a little fast on that. All right, so once you've joined a networking group, and you start to meet people and you start to make bonds and things, you can start looking for a mentor. Amma talked about allies, advisors, and advocates, and that's kind of what a mentor is doing. They're working with you, they're helping you, coach you, they're helping support you. There are way more people who are looking for you to succeed than for you to fail. So who is a mentor? A mentor is a person or a friend who guides a less experienced person by building trust and modeling behaviors. A mentor understands that their role is to be dependable and engaged and authentic and tuned into the needs of a mentoree. And the act of mentoring is just a series of little ongoing successes. That's all well and good, right? How do I find a mentor? I just can't go up and say, will you be my mentor? Well, one, you can. Sometimes that's fine. You don't get if you don't ask. But look within the connections you're making in your networking group. Look within your circle of influence. Reach out to people you know and admire. Even sometimes just taking the leap and reaching out to somebody in your industry who you don't know and saying, hey, I'm really impressed by you. Would you be willing to have time to answer a few questions? Often you don't even realize that you probably have mentors in your circle right now that's happening in just a casual manner. I've been lucky to be on the board of the Women's Network Working Group with great women who have built me up and inspired me and given me the confidence to speak at the South Shore Conference for Women in October, and who reminded me that I know more than I think I do, and I'll be fine. I just have to take that leap and do one thing every day that scares me. And so I'm really grateful to women like that, because without them being an actual formal mentor, they have given me hope, and they have given me support, and they have helped me when I've sat at that table and cried because I just didn't think I could do it anymore. So you can have mentors in your life who aren't formal mentors, and there's no mentorship program to deal with. Another great opportunity for finding mentors or finding resources is mastermind groups. One of the best things my dad ever did when I came into the business was he was in a mastermind group, and he had me participate my first week in this company. And I came out of that meeting with a list this long. My mind was just blown. I'm still working through that list 20 years later, but we're getting there. I am right now in a group called EntreLeadership that does mastermind groups, and that group has companies, 10 companies from various different industries, and we all work together. We meet once a month on a chat conference call like this, and we talk about what's working, what's not working, what do we need help with. In my industry, Remodelers Advantage is a mastermind group that puts together non-competing remodelers from around the country within a similar volume size, and we do the same thing. So I've really found the power of mastermind groups to be great, because they get to know you, and they really get to know your personality and your business. And even though they're not going through the same thing necessarily, they do have great insight from either past experience or help you look at things in a different way. So if you're looking for kind of that more of a group environment, I really think that a mastermind group is a great thing to check out. So you have networked, you have joined a mastermind group, you are looking around at the people around you in your circle of influences, and how are you going to nurture those relationships? How are you going to not have it just be me, I? You've got to think about the fact that it's only with gratitude that we really become rich in this life. You've got to remember to be grateful every day for something that makes you happy every day. And how do you share that happiness with other people? You've got to take an interest in other people. I love this quote from Teddy Roosevelt: "Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care." So what can you do to build that relationship? You've got to check in on people right now, especially. You've got to text, you've got to call, you've got to send a message so that people don't feel alone. Not just in business, but in your grandma, in the lady next door, in your networking friends. We don't necessarily know who is having a hard time adjusting and dealing. Follow them on social media. Take note of what's happening and what they're posting, and comment. Send handwritten notes. You cannot beat a handwritten note right now or today. After you meet with somebody, after somebody's done something for you. Email is great, but it's impersonal. A handwritten note shows that you took the time to go that extra mile. And then find ways to help other people. When you're in a networking event, ask them, what do you need? What will make you successful? Share referrals, share connections, share resources. The best way to find out about a great opportunity is to share it with somebody, to get it from somebody else. I'm going to share some of the things that have worked well for me, and hopefully you guys can post some things back that have worked well for you so I can check them out. And try and find a problem that they're having and give some solutions. You've got to find your tribe and love them hard. When I became a mom, Craig forced me to join the new mom group, and I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be out of my bubble. I couldn't have made it through my first year as a mother without these people. So much so that one of them moved to the same town as me so our kids could still be together. I've got a group right now. We are literally sharing, what grocery store has the meat? What are we doing with the kids? You've got to find that connection to people. So we were supposed to play the LinkedIn game in this time slot. Hopefully when you've got the slides, if you've never played it, you can keep the slides and do it at your next networking event. It's great. what you will do at the time is you'll open up your LinkedIn and you will be able to search for all of the people in that room to make connections and follow each other on LinkedIn. And then you can go back later and connect with them. If you are on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook and Instagram, if you want to put your tag in the chat box so that other people can grab it and try and connect with you now, that would be great. And then we're gonna move on to some resources. There we go. So here's some stuff that I think that would be great if you wanted to check out. Some podcasts that I really like I said before, are the Entre Leadership, the Ken Coleman Show, the Business Boutique by Christy Wright. Some books that I have found really valuable in my personal education for business Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard. That's a short read, but it kind of gives you some great tips for how to connect with people. The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. So that's more of a personal finance and budgeting book. Dave also does a radio show and some classes. If you're nervous and you're struggling and you're not sure how you're going to make it through the next couple of weeks, that's a really great book to grab onto and to read. I read it right when I came out of college, and it really changed my life. It kind of gives you, awesome for high C's like me, a step-by-step guide of how to get yourself in order and how to get yourself out of debt and how to build a budget and an emergency fund. So if you are interested in a free copy of it, put your information in the chat box or send it to me, and I will draw somebody at the end of the session, and I will send you a personal free copy of it, because I believe so passionately that everybody should really read this book. So other ones that I really love are Free to Focus and Living Forward by Michael Hyatt. We just found his books last year, my husband and I. Free to Focus talks a lot about how to get yourself organized and how to get more done and build your to-do list and schedule. And one of the things we did with that was we switched from doing all of our to-do lists online, and he has a planner, like a quarterly planner that you can get, and we switched to that, and it has made my life so much better. I went from being super overwhelmed, and I had lists on paper and Post-it notes and in my computer, and now I do my brain dump every day into that and do my rank, and there's a spot for my big three. And if I get the big three done, great. And if I get overwhelmed or I get, sidetracked, back to the list. So check that out. The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni. That's a great book. My team and I are working through StoryBrand right now, and it's about branding and marketing and how to communicate with your clients. And then Business Boutique by Christy Wright is an amazing book for women who are looking to start and run their own small business. And then hopefully we've been sharing some of these other links. Let's see.
Hey, Allison.
Yes, honey.
There's 5 minutes left. Just want to.
Perfect. Okay, because I'm almost done. Takeaways and next steps. Dreams don't work unless you do. Done is better than perfect. Take a step, get something done. You can improve on it and build on it later as you learn more. So that's kind of my what I wanted to share. I hope that there was some good tips in here for you today. I'd love for you guys to put in the chat box about what's one thing you want to do now, or what's one takeaway that you hadn't thought about or you wanted to think more about. And while you're doing that, if you want to stay in touch with me, you can find me on Facebook at Allison Almar. My company is Almar Building and Remodeling. And LinkedIn, Instagram, or my email.